Hello everybody, welcome back to Cities Skylines 2 with me Biffa here in New Brewburgh, and I've got a special video for you today. Myself, City Planner Plays and Overcharged Egg met with Colossal Order and Paradox yesterday, and we had a frank and open discussion about the game, about where it is, about some problems that we have, issues, some solutions that we're putting forward as well, you know, just some ideas. We recognise we're not game devs, but, you know, we play the game a lot, we love the game, so they were very, very open to listen to that. So I wanted to make a video about that discussion, about that meeting that we had. It was something that Colossal Order and Paradox said they wanted to do, was meet with members from the community. So I sat down, I made a big long list of things I wanted to talk about. I know City Planner Plays did, I know Overcharged Egg did as well. And we put it to the lovely people there. So yeah, I'm going to get building and we'll see where this discussion goes. Right, so who was there? We had on the Paradox side, we had Luca, Kling. You probably recognise Luca from some of the live streams they've done. He's been on those. Business manager at Paradox. Basically means project manager. He's a project manager for Cities Skylines 2, I guess, for Paradox. We had Sebastian. He's a producer at Paradox as well. It was lovely to have them there. From Colossal Order, we had Mariina, I think we know well, the CEO, and also Hans as well, creative director. He said he's been there about 11 years, joined around the time of Cities in Motion 2. And then from the community, we had Overcharged Egg, myself, and City Planner Plays as well. So after the introductions, we were sort of asked if, you know, we had any questions or anything we wanted to say. I mentioned, you know, we've all sort of made a list of things that we wanted to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the things that were in my list. I know City Planner and Egg as well have had their own list. There was a couple of things that crossed over, but I'm not going to particularly mention what else is on their list because I think they're going to talk about that. So I basically spoke about how, from my point of view, you know, yes, I'm a YouTuber, but I'm somebody who absolutely loves City Skylines 1. Well, I still do. I love City Skylines 1. And I would play the game, even if my channel died, I'd still play the game. I absolutely loved it, and the creativity of it and all that sort of thing. So what I was going to share with them, even though most of it was my opinion, I actually asked my Discord community, and thank you very much for those that responded to my questions. I put 3 questions to my community. Now, those 3 questions were, if you're still playing City Skylines 2 now, how do you feel about it? What still needs to be improved, changed, or fixed, in your opinion? The second question was, if you've stopped playing, what needs to happen to the game to bring you back? And the third question was, if you're waiting for the console release, what does this release need to have? So I collated your answers, and they basically fell into 2 categories: game content and game mechanics. And a lot of the answers, I was quite pleased to see, a lot of the answers you gave were the same answers that I would give as well. And then I also added a third category to my feedback to Paradox and Colossal Order and called that category perception. And then for each of the categories, I listed some of the problems, and then I also listed some solutions that I thought could help as well. Again, you know, with the proviso, I'm not a game dev, I'm not running the business, I'm not having to prioritize all the things. And that was one of the things they mentioned right at the beginning, and they mentioned it again at the end. And it wasn't by way of an excuse, but for just people to keep in mind, they're less than 30 people at Colossal Order. They know what they want to add, they know what we want to add, and they know now we've had this discussion. They can't just suddenly add everything next week. It is just not physically possible. And there's certain things that they're working on, like there's a big patch coming out. They're working all the time. There's a big patch coming out that's going to tweak a lot of the fundamentals of the way the game works. I'm not sure I can go into details about that. They said the whole discussion was not under NDA. But what's going on with this patch and stuff, I think, is under NDA. So there we go. So there's a big patch coming out. It's going to change the way the game runs a lot in the background. A lot of the fundamentals of the game. And I've completely lost my train of thought what I was saying. Yeah, that was right. So they need to get things like that done before they can start adding other things, because it's going to be a big change to the game. Does that make sense? So there is an order to things, is what I'm getting at. So as much as we'd all like more content tomorrow, there's things they need to get done first and fix first. There's things that are broken that they want to fix, and they're going to do that first. Then it gives them a better basis to do other stuff. That's what I'm saying. So this was my first problem, was the game content. So we all agreed, and I said the big content drop from Cities Skylines 1 to 2 is the biggest battle I think they've got at the moment. I only create videos when I enjoy a game, and I stopped enjoying a game, and I stopped playing, stopped recording, like I mentioned. A lot of this was down just to the content. I'd be recording a video or try to record a video, and I'm like, creatively, I feel like I've done everything, I've seen everything, it looks the same, and I know a lot of you guys echo that as well. The overall view that a lot of people have can fit into the phrase, this should have all been included already in a sequel. And I think that covered a lot of reasonable things that shouldn't be overlooked, that need to be added. I was going to mention in my notes, I don't think I did, we all heard the phrase, we're starting again, in the trailer. And to be honest, I don't think a lot of us thought how much we're going to be starting again. But also what was interesting, that wasn't how Colossal Order wanted it. They did mention quite a few times that the game that they released wasn't in the state that they wanted it. There was a lot of reasons why it got to be like that, but that's not what they want, and they're working to sort that. So I said that, a lot of people, when they're asked the question, is 2 worth buying now over 1? The majority would say no, because a lot of the fun stuff was missing. That was in Cities Skylines 1. I made a list, things like bikes, that was like the biggest thing mentioned, more parks, the industry stuff, natural disaster stuff. Of course, you've got all the content creator packs, assets, rocks, trees, plants. We've only got like about 10 parks. Also missing quality of life things that I think a lot expected. I know I did, to be in the sequel. What I would call basic mods: move it, find it, line tool, basic traffic light tweaking and lane management, prop tools, LUTs, and I'd include sort of in prop tools anarchy. So when you combine all of that together, those missing assets, those missing mods, they all sort of combine to make all cities look the same, which has a knock-on effect of the game feeling boring. And like I mentioned before, it's not long before you feel like you've seen it all and done it all, with no options to tweak it, to decorate it, and to make it your own over the sort of 10 trees and 12 bushes. So I'd said to them, I stepped back because of my own creativity. I said there was one bug driving me up the wall, the zoning one. I think Phil mentioned that as well, City Planner Plays. That's a big one that just drives people up the wall. I said, you got to fix it, please. But, I've sort of fixed it with the zoning toolkit mod, but for those that don't use mods, for console players, I kept mentioning these things. It's all well and good for PC getting mods. Console, they need these things fixed. They need these mods added. So I said the thing that brought me back, which has really got me going again, is all the extra detailing stuff that's added. Now we can get creative about things. Plus you've got these quality of life tools that modders are really sort of getting more stuck into. And I think now I can sit down and feel like I can do something, and I've got the tools to do it. I can move it. I've got the anarchy. I've got the find it that can delve into all the assets. We spoke a lot about that. There's so many assets in the game already and nobody can get hold of them. So one of the things that was actually mentioned, this is probably, well, you won't know. I'm dropping in things as I remember them, because I didn't sort of take notes during the meeting. I remembered a lot of what they were said. I've got my notes and it's reminding me of what they said. One of the things Sebastian was talking about, they were furiously taking notes whenever we were giving our information across to them. And I noticed Sebastian, we were talking about the Find It mod, and he was like, oh yeah, that's an idea. We've sort of tried that. We've played around with it. And I said, look, a lot of these things that you can put in the mod, the mods that we're talking about, they don't necessarily have to be the full mod or the mod in the way you recognize it. So for instance, talk about Find It. You just put a little search box at the bottom that someone can click on, and thinking if they're on console, they click on it, a keyboard pops up, or on PC, you've got your keyboard, and you just type in chair, table, tree, whatever, and it comes up with all the stuff and gives you access to all the assets in the game, apart from the game breaking ones. I said that would probably, most people would be happy with that. But then you've got the room still for a modder to come along and make a mod like Find It, where you've got different tabs, different search options, all the things that go into that. So you can do the same with things like Move It. Have the basic, you can tweak, you can move a thing, but then let the Move It mods come in with the copy and the paste and all the extra stuff. You don't always have to go the whole hog. And I think a lot of people would be pleased with that, and definitely console players would be pleased to have those sort of basic things in. So I mentioned that I can personally overlook a lot of the you know, the sort of, I would say fringe bugs, the ones where you sort of maybe read on Reddit, someone says, I've made an entire city and it's only connected to the outside world via one footpath, but everything still works. You know, that sort of thing. I'm not finding it unless I'm looking for those sort of problems. And I can, personally speaking, overlook that sort of thing if I'm really enjoying playing the game. I don't expect the game to be perfect. It'd be great if it was, but it's ever evolving, moving, growing, live. I think Mariina said at one point, it's a live game. Things are changing all the time. So bugs are going to come up, things are going to happen. But if I'm busy decorating stuff, making lovely parks, using the mods in the game and all that sort of stuff, and, you know, extra detailing, I haven't got the time to go looking for weird fringe sort of cases. I'm just enjoying the game. So I said that would help the community as well, all of that. So after all of this and those problems, I said, moving forward, what could we have? So I said, again, knowing that they can't just dump all this stuff tomorrow into the game, I said more base game assets, schools, service buildings of different sizes. You can't make an out-of-town village or even a different looking city because it all looks the same and everyone's got the huge service buildings that are the same and all that sort of thing. I also mentioned adding some of the things that we sort of know and loved from the game before. Things like the one button press cinematic camera. I love that. All the different types of roads that we ended up with in the base game of Cities Skylines 1. The trees and bushes, to go from all of that to what we've got now, you know, make up the difference. I said give access to all the in-game props and assets. Asses, I don't think there's donkeys in the game. Props and assets. Like I mentioned about that built-in sort of find it search box or something like that. Add in bikes. I said, you know, have an amazing bike DLC later down the line with all sorts of things that might come in that. But just basic bikes, a policy, you know, bike lanes, I just would make all the difference to how the city works. We need more in-game parks, large and small. So what we've got now, to be honest, is lackluster. So don't have a content creator pack or DLC before you've just added more to the base game. Have some free ones in there. Flesh out the base game first. I said as a priority, the assets and networks in the editor, both of those. And I know that is something they are working on. We all know that. They've spoken about that. Hopefully it's not going to take too long to get that. And then once that's done, I think then we get the region packs, because the asset editor is something that needs to get sorted. Then we get the region packs. So ASAP on that. And I think that will really help. That will really flesh out the sort of stuff that I'm talking about in the game. And then I mentioned for any larger game updates that are coming out later on, whether that's the same sort of thing they did before, where we've got this DLC that covers, you know, we had Park Life. We get the Park Life DLC, but in the base game, you also get some upgrades as well for free. So when you do some bigger game updates, add some of these basic quality of life mods. So you're not necessarily feeling under pressure to dump it all at once now, but, you know, have an update, and then we've got to add some of the moving functionality. Another update will add the find it search box, and then you can sort of go through like that. So that was the first section I mentioned. That was my game content list of sort of problems and possible solutions. The next one, spoke about some of the game mechanics. Now, I wasn't going to go on about like the performance issues, which you know about, the economy, which sort of doesn't really work, game mechanics that don't work. They know about that, and they're working on those constantly. So there was no point me wasting a load of time going through all of that. One of the things actually that they mentioned was they do read all of the feedback. They've got people particularly that are there to do that. That collate the feedback, that read the feedback. Obviously, they're not going to reply to every single forum post. That would be a job for 20 people, but they do. And emails, every single email is read. Everything on the forums is read. They'd seen our video feedbacks that we'd done. I sort of got the impression that they, you know, the video feedbacks, the ones that were put over in a way that were helpful. I think they appreciated those ones, so that was good. So the one I mentioned, getting onto the game mechanic, was production chains. I mentioned this before, that looks so good on paper, moving sliders, that's just not fun. And even when you do move them, it doesn't affect what happens in the game. You're playing whack-a-mole to get what you want. And then I mentioned there's no traffic challenge. As the cities even get larger, traffic seems to just go down. I've looked at huge cities and there's nothing on the road. Yeah, we do get traffic from time to time, but it is just not the same. And I said the traffic flow is always at 60%, right? So I don't know what's going on there. And even if we did get some traffic, we don't really have the basic tools to fix it, which I'll come back to. Despawning vehicles. A lot of the things actually, as we went through, because I spoke about how despawning vehicles, I understand why they've got it in there, because you could get to a point where your city just totally breaks because nothing is working. Now, to me, that would be quite fun to fix. And I said many people enjoy that challenge of things breaking and wanting to learn to fix it and improving. That's part of the challenge and part of the fun. And I think there was a little bit of a realization, not just on this point, but on a few things where I think it's particularly Sebastian. I can't remember, like, right, okay, we've sort of thought that a lot of people, and there are a lot of people, are city painters. And there's city painters, city builders, there's slight different, and there's some people that do everything. City fixers. And I said, you're sort of missing, you haven't got everything in there for city painters, and you haven't got everything in there for, city fixers, have you? But they're, back to adding everything in on the content. Anyway, going off track. But there was a lot of things that came up that we've sort of spoken about, making the game more difficult, having a hard mode. And one of the things I mentioned was like this despawning vehicles thing could literally be a toggle or a slider. I want vanilla however it works. So when it gets really bad, things will despawn. I want totally the other end, so 0 despawning. You can have that, and then a little slider in the middle. Or even if it's just a toggle, I want them or I don't want them. Then you've got the choice and you can have fun. I mentioned disasters, which are a bit of a disaster. I mean, you get high wind, which doesn't seem to affect anything. You've probably seen it in some of my videos. You only know it's happening if you happen to be in just the right spot to hear the strong wind, and then you see that icon on a few affected houses saying they've got high wind, and then it goes, and then that's it. Nothing happens. But nothing happens. Tornadoes, they don't really look great, and to be honest, I've turned them off now, but I used to just ignore them. I don't think I've ever built any shelters, evac buses, early warning systems. I don't think I've even placed one of any of them. There's just no point, even with disasters on, because it doesn't sort of do anything. Hailstorms are meant to be in the game. I've never seen one. I went back and checked. It's in the dev diaries. Never seen a hailstorm. And then I said forest fires have been tweaked too much. They just don't happen anymore. Talked about the lack of challenges in the game. One of them, I said the economic challenge, that's a difficult one. I know that's going to be something they're going to be tweaking a lot as the game goes along. I said, to be honest, I didn't particularly enjoy the hard mode that was in Cities Skylines 1, because all it did was make things more expensive, as far as I'm aware. That's the thing that I saw. If it did other stuff in the background, I didn't even notice. I did a whole series with hard mode. I mean, you notice hard mode when you first start playing, everything's more expensive. It makes everything slower to start the game. So you just end up getting the city to the point where it's making money and then just leaving it running for half an hour. Then you've got enough to do the next thing. So it just didn't really sort of, it didn't really sort of make any difference. And then again, I said people love fixing cities. I said to them, and this is honestly, I have been submitted thousands and thousands and thousands of cities ever since starting the city fixing in Cities Skylines 1. And I think they were a bit surprised. So I've got a spreadsheet. I've got lists of people who filled in the form. And that's problems all the way from traffic problems to city layout, goods problems, transit issues, anything and everything. And I said, with nothing really breaking in Cities Skylines 2, you don't feel you can do wrong. So city fix doesn't really happen. The challenge has gone in the game. So that was spoken about a lot. So I said, moving forward, what things can we do to fix those problems? Production chains, I said, if there's some way to allow us to pick and choose what companies and products spawn in. So that would give us more. I always think more options is more fun. More choice is more fun. So you can now decide you want a little city that's only going to have, plastics or petrochemicals in this area of the city or in this whole city. So you pick those to come in rather than move the slider with tax rates and then nothing changes anyway. And like I said, moving sliders, it's a necessity, but not. That shouldn't be the main point of that thing in the game, because production chains look like it could be amazing. So give us that option. And then I think I'm right in saying this, that there's sort of like a fluctuating market of prices that runs in the background of the game. So anything coming in and out, any services in and out, any goods, whatever, the prices will vary. So I said, if that is going on, and maybe there's some possible way, I mean, even if you don't see that, but over time, it might be that your plastics city isn't quite making enough money being devoted just to that product. So now you've got to make a few changes, or maybe you've got to use the money that you've saved in the good times to help in the bad times. You've got all that sort of stuff going on as well. So that was some ideas I spoke about. Traffic, I said some of the tools we need. I said you've gone great with the no left, no right and no straight on, but they need to be individual lanes. I said it can be done. We've seen mods that will do it, but in the game that needs to be like that, otherwise there's just no point. I said more ability to tweak traffic light timings on top of the vanilla option, and I said again, it doesn't have to be every single thing that's in the traffic manager mod, just the ability to say on this cycle these will be green and red, on that cycle they'll be green and red, and you've set up your lanes, and that would be great. And then traffic manager could come in with all the other 14-15 options that gets added to that afterwards. Ability to add remove yield signs I mentioned. I said perhaps on the pre-built roundabouts, because I don't like using those, but they're just easy, aren't they? But I said when you plot them down and you've got your roads connected, could you click in the centre part that gets highlighted? It just opens up a little simple UI box, and you can just say where each of the lanes go. So you've got 3 lanes coming in. I want that one to go left, that one to go right, that one to go straight on. You sort of do that for each of your entrances and exits. And the way the game works, it will automatically draw in the road markings because it does that. So that could be, again, from I'm not a game maker, I'm not a dev. I said, but it seems like it could be not a too complicated thing. Add a toggle for no despawn. I spoke about that already. This was another one. Add an option for how, I called it the stupid drivers thing, that randomness that's in the game that makes us see trucks do stupid things or take the wrong lane or all those weird things. Some people like that, some people hate it. Have a slider for that. So either you have it vanilla, you have it 100% stupid, which would just be such fun to try and fix a city working on that. You can have it 0 stupid, so they just drive perfect all the time. They just follow your rules all the time. And I know a lot of people prefer that, or anywhere in between, that could be fun. We spoke about the challenges in the game. Now, this was a bit of an eye-opener to me. I always love the scenarios, and I think that would be a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about is just from a game player's perspective. Scenarios were good fun to play, but were just brilliant for videos as well. And I thought, they help people learn bits of the game. They're fun. And they started the scenarios in Cities Skylines 1, and they did some more. And after a while, they stopped, and I never really got an answer why. And I sort of spoke a bit about adding these back into the game. People like that sort of thing. And Mariina sort of said that they get the telemetry. So they know how many people play the game. They obviously got all the stats and figures on what people do in the game. It's just the way games work. So they can see how many people played scenarios. They said people don't play them at all. She didn't give me an exact number, but she said it was barely anybody would just load up and play the scenarios. So that's fair enough. So from a business point of view, they haven't got all the time in the world. They're trying to fix the game, add content, do patches, get onto the good stuff they spoke about. If nobody's playing scenarios, they're not going to be putting the effort into them, which is a big shame because I would have thought that would have been good. I had a great idea, and I think also City Planner Plays might have mentioned something similar a bit later, or before I said it, I can't remember, but about a monthly challenge, every month having a scenario challenge, a bit like you sort of see in mini motorways or games like that. They have the weekly challenge or the monthly challenge. Then you'd have that on the live stream content. Then you could have a section on PDX mods. I think people would do it then if it was more a community thing, but I can understand why they haven't come up with it. But I'm sure I'll come up with some challenges. We've done that before, and maybe we can get into doing something like that. Right. The economy, it needs tweaking, but I think, with the behind the scenes things that they're working on, I think we're going to possibly see some changes along those lines moving forward. What was this? Oh, that was it. Yeah. So talk about challenges. I said, make the way that we build, make our lack of good road layouts, bad city layouts, low health, uneducated citizens, all these different things that are bad, make them really affect the city. Because at the minute, you can just sort of do things badly and you'll get stuff coming from the outside of the city to deal with, education, to deal with the lack of jobs. And it just all sorts to get done for you. I said, make it difficult, make it a challenge. Players enjoy failing a bit and learning and improving. Those that just want to do a city painter, they'll probably use unlimited funds and unlock all anyway. Again, I mentioned when you start your game, you could perhaps have a different amount of starting funds. A bit like you do if you're playing Football Manager or something like that, or my kids do when they're playing FIFA. Give yourself 100 million to start and buy Mbappe, you know. Do the equivalent in Cities Skylines. Start with a vanilla amount, start with more, start with less. So again, you've got the options, you've got some challenge, you've got some fun. I said you could also have perhaps an option that, you know, doesn't give you the injection of cash that you get to help you along. Those sort of things. There was quite a few different ones we spoke about on that sort of thing. So whether some of them are just sort of easy to do and quick to do, or whether it's a bit more complicated, you know, we'll leave that to them. So that was the second section, talking about the game mechanics. And then the third section, which was perception. And this was really sort of my thoughts about how things are and what we could sort of do moving forward. So, you know, I said there's a lot of bugs and things that are really sort of driving people up the wall. And I said that when they seem to be smallish sort of bugs, the perception is, you know, why aren't you fixing these? I can't remember where it was I mentioned it, but about if you could have hot fixes rather than waiting for a larger sort of update and it fixes like a whole list, 2 A4 pages of bugs. But some of the more annoying ones, could they just get fixed in a hot fix? Because we sort of see that with other games, you know, like Manor Lords. The game will release, have a hot fix a couple of days later, a couple of days later. It was quite interesting. I'll go through some of the things I mentioned, but it's quite interesting what Mariina said about how the process works. I haven't got it all written down, but it basically was, you know, they're not a one-man band. They can't just fix a bug, put it out, see how it goes, or maybe we'll get that fixed and then it doesn't quite work and they'll tweak it. They have like a whole process. So let's just say they've got 10 bugs. 2 of those might be fixed in a day. One of them might take 10 days. And then, you know, a variety of lengths of time on the other one. So that's the developers working in the background, the coders, whatever, trying to fix the bugs. When a patch is ready to be put forward, it has to go through a whole process. So they finish the patch, they test the patch, it will go to another department, they get certification, it's all agreed to release. There was quite a few steps that were listed, and that takes time. That can take a few days to get through that. So if you imagine perhaps doing it the way I thought, you know, let's just say they fix that annoying zoning bug and then they go through that process to get a hot fix out to fix that, and it takes a few days, and in the middle of that process going through, they've actually fixed now another bug. So it's like, oh, okay, so do they stop the process and now add that fix in and start going through the process again, or do they wait until the process is finished for that one bug, which now delays the fix for the second bug? You can see how it's, you know, there's more to this than just me saying fix a bug and do a hot fix. And I think, you know, a reasonable people will understand they have to have processes and things are done in a certain way. So they are doing it the best way that they can, which I do agree with. So I mentioned the zoning problems. I mentioned performance in the vein of, you know, I was writing my notes for this meeting. I'd literally loaded up a brand new map, no mods, and I was just pointing at a bit of road on the ground. And my legs were getting suntan through my trousers. There's nothing in the city. I mean, 4090 was running at 95%. Just things like that. Surely it doesn't have to, and that can be sorted. Anti-aliasing, that needs to be fixed. PDX mods, I said, yeah, there's improvements needed to be in there, but, you know, it's in beta. They are improving stuff. So, you know, there's no point sort of harping on about that. They know about that. I did mention that problem that it is still possible to build a city only connected via footpaths and a passenger train, and everything just seems to continue functioning. I said things like that. Again, I put that in the perception category because it gives you the perception that the game doesn't work fundamentally. So I said you need to look at things like that and stop the sort of magic teleporting, everything's just going to work type feeling. Again, I get that you can't literally simulate every single bit of every tiny thing in the city. Nobody would have the supercomputer enough to run it. So there's got to be a little bit of fudging behind the scenes. We don't see 100,000 people biking in the city. But things like that, it's just an obvious thing. I said you've got to be able to have that not happen. Again, in the perception thing, I put this is not as good as CS1. There's not as much content. And I said, I know long term you're going to have DLCs, you're going to have content creator packs. That's how they afford to keep running the game and updating it and all the rest of it. That's just how they're going to do it. That isn't going to change. But I said, have a real think about repaying the fans for their amazing support over the last 8 years. I'm probably, I don't know if CO and Paradox end up watching this video, because I'm actually reading my notes now to let my viewers know how it went. I'm probably actually mentioning things that I didn't mention in the video in the same way. So if it doesn't sort of tie up exactly, you'll know why. But what I wanted to say was about repaying the fans for their stunning support of the 8 years of Cities Skylines 1, and repaying those fans that are still here despite all the problems, and winning back the fans that expected a certain standard to a sequel to the best city building game ever and didn't get it. And I listed 4 free updates that I think would go a long way to solving a lot of the perception problems and a lot of the problems in the game. So number 1 was a free detailers update. Stuff this free update with trees, rocks, plants, all those sort of things, and then add that simple find it mod, just a little search box in the game, so we can then get access, if you're a non-modder or a console player eventually, to all the assets and stuff in the game. There is tons of stuff. I think City Planner mentioned they've spent so much time modelling all these things and nobody can get access to them without mods. To make that possible, so you've got a detailers update, all those assets, access to the assets in the game, and then add that functionality of just like a little mini find it mod. And then that still leaves room for content creator packs later, covering all the different types of assets and buildings and stuff like that. The second one was a free network update. So this one would include all sorts of, at the minute it's EU and North American roads of all different shapes and sizes, more road functions, more road styles like the ones we had eventually in Vanilla Cities Skylines 1, and then add some functions from mods, like some of the stuff from intersection marking tool and the traffic manager mod. So again, just a few of the basic things, allow me to adjust to how the traffic lights work, the lanes, and then from intersection marking tool allow me just to change how the road looks, a couple of simple things. It builds the base game. It still leaves room for modders to make intersection marking tool 2 and traffic manager mods, whatever it's going to end up being called with all the amazing things in it. Still leaves room for contact creator packs, DLCs, covering more regions, bike DLCs, all sorts of network stuff that you can think of, which I'm sure they've got a list of. Number 3, a park update. So give us more variety in parks, large and small, the ability to designate a park area, and then give us a line tool and prop anarchy. So a basic line tool like we've had where you can just draw trees in, how far apart they are. I said that would just be amazing. And then just that prop anarchy where we can toggle it on or off, so we can actually put trees closer together than that sort of circle that appears when you pop them down. And maybe a little added addition to the bulldozer tool, say it like that. So you can remove things off of the built-in park, like we do with mods. We'll plop a built-in park, I'll delete the fences, we'll extend the area, we'll add some trees to it, and suddenly that basic park has become a big park. So a couple of little changes to what's in the game, and we could do that. That would be the free park update. Later on, you can still add different park DLC, whatever they've got, all different styles of parks from around the world, theme parks, the list is endless. But again, building up the base game. And then finally, number 4 was a free utilities and services update. So add in large, medium, small, fire, police, health, school buildings, train and metro stations above and below ground, a couple of different bus station sizes. Just give us more options on those. And again, you can still have future DLCs and content creator packs like we've seen where, Peanut brings out a pack that covers all the bus stations and train stations and metro stations you can ever think of. You can still have all of that, but the base game has flushed out. And then I mentioned numerous times, these sort of things in the base game means the console players will have access to it too. So I'm constantly mentioning that because I know, unless anything changes, you're not getting the mod side of PDX Mods, you're getting the assets of PDX Mods. But if some of these basic things are in the base game, you'll get those. I also mentioned marketing. So we're talking about in the perception section of my chat. I don't think I actually mentioned this, but we spoke about a lot. So live streams I was gonna say about rotating your hosts. Not everybody enjoys the same style of host and stream, so a variety would be good. We did speak a lot about if there's problems. I think, to be honest, let's say a major problem comes up, they release a patch, and a lot of things happen, and they need to like rush to get this patch fixed or whatever. I really hope it doesn't, but if it does, but also thinking about what we've recently had with problems, I think we'd all prefer them saying, sorry, we can't do the stream this week, we're postponing it as we all concentrate on fixing this huge problem, rather than a set of uncomfortable hosts that either can't answer the questions, have been told not to, or, you know, don't have the information or whatever, because it's still a work in progress. This is not a smirch on the hosts, but for whatever reason, it's a very uncomfortable situation. I think we prefer that, and I'm glad that's what they've done recently, just sort of put a stop to it all, let's get things sorted, and I think that's the way going forward to do that. I was also going to mention, from time to time, I have streamers from the community. I'm not just saying get me on there, but there's loads of us that play, large and small YouTube channels. Who cares? People that are good at streaming, get them on there doing some streams. I think that'll be good. I also mentioned, I just think we're past the apologies now. We've had the apologies, you know, we just need to move on. And the way that's going to happen is Colossal Order and Paradox showing they mean business by fixing the game, not releasing DLC until the game is up to an expectation content-wise and with the fixes that we expect. So there's going to be a level there that not everybody's going to agree with. There's going to be a level there that isn't possible because of the size. You know, they are less than 30 people. They do have to prioritize things. They can't do everything. So whereas me as a fan or you as a fan will go, we want all of this stuff, should have been there at the beginning, you know, whatever the reason is, we are where we are and they have to prioritize. So, you know, but they do understand that, and I think the beach properties has given them a wake-up call on the DLC side of things. So yeah, I'd say, you know, you're not going to get fans, new fans or old fans, flooding back for sort of bug fixes and things, although that's good. So, you know, singing and dancing about the bug fixes isn't going to suddenly build your player base. I think they know that. They want to do it anyway. But improving the game to a reasonable degree of expectations for a follow-up to CS1, I think will. So, you know, we do need to move on. We are where we are. And I think, you know, those four sort of four updates that I mentioned, the utility services, the network update, the detailers update, you know, I sort of sold it as this can be spread out over time. It's something you can talk about. You don't have to do it all at once. It will build up the base game to a level I think most people would be happy with, and it would add some of these extra little tools from mods that would really help everybody, console and PC together. And I think that would go a long way to helping things as well. So that was what I put across. As I said, Phil, City Planner and Egg put across a load of stuff as well. I'm just going to take 5 minutes and have a think and maybe share some of the information that they gave us as well. Yeah, so after we'd finished putting across all of our feedback, Hans was saying that he saw a common thread, I suppose you'd say, that a lot of people would enjoy the ability to be able to fail in some way in their cities, to have that option available. Their high-level concept, which is really what we had in Cities Skylines 1, I suppose, to a certain degree, was that the cities will always survive in some way, that they won't just totally die off and disappear. But if there's some way to add more challenges to make it more fun, then that will be good. Also talking about all the micromanagey type stuff, talking about the traffic lights, all the tweaking things that a load of us mentioned. You know, there is so many things that they could... I think I muted myself by mistake then. Yeah, there is so many different things they can add to the game, the tweaky micromanagey type stuff, that you can't just give it all, even though you'd like that, because it would take away from their design ideas, I suppose, for the game as well. But there are a lot of things that they can sort of think about and add. He also mentioned that the search box idea had been talked about before amongst them. It was something they were thinking about. They'd really have to sort of look at what assets that they expose to everybody, because there are some things that can be game breaking, which we understand. But he also said that he wants more props and trees as well. He's like us. He plays the game. You could see the enjoyment that he's got from playing the game as much as you or I have. So that was really interesting to see. something Mariina mentioned, I remember, was that she said, I think it was something as when the base game of CS2 was released, it had 10 times more assets than CS1. I'm sort of assuming that means all the things we don't have access to yet as well. So yeah, that's interesting. But they're also talking about how they're still looking to be doing these free updates for Cities Skylines 2 to include things that they think that the base game should have, but they can only continue to do those, of course, if people are playing the game, you know. So if people are buying the DLCs and invested in the game and playing the game, then they, you know, they're a business, they're making money, they can pay to continue. But they want to give people the choices, like with DLCs, you know, some are going to want industries, some are going to want part life, different things, you know, like we saw in Cities Skylines 1. But Mariina definitely said they don't want everything behind a paywall. They want to add stuff to the base game, so that's good moving forward. So of course we've got the region packs that are going to add a lot of variety of different things. I got the impression that they're not just going to be buildings, there's going to be other things in there as well, which is something I was going to mention in my list. I don't know if I did earlier or not, but you know, having service packs that are British, service buildings that are, you know, British, Japanese, whatever the different region packs were, would be great. And that was something Han sort of questioned us about again, what our expectations were, sort of sizes and variety. And then we had a little discussion about, he asked us, would we like the ability to change the colour of a service building when it's placed? And all of us, me, Egg, City Planner, all said yes, that would be great. And then I threw in how, you probably saw it in my last episode that I recorded, that I'm placing building, oh actually you might not see it, I'm recording this now, so you might not see that one. I don't know when things are coming out, but I'm placing buildings down and I want a particular colour. You know, obviously I'm using mods to place. Oh, that's the colour I want. Then I use move it mod to put it where I want. I said if you could place a building down and then just have a little button that scrolls through the 3 or 4 colours that's available in, that would be like to me a simple way of sort of solving that colour variation problem. So having that ability on service buildings and any other building as well would be great. Again, expectation management was mentioned by Mariina. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff that everybody wants in it, a lot of cool stuff that we're mentioning. Some of it's easier to add than others. Some of it can be, they call it low-hanging fruit. It's a phrase that's used in lots of industries. If there's a few quick things you can fix and it made a load of people happy, you would do it. You just get it done and lots of people are happy. The harder things, the longer time taking things, the bigger things, you know, sometimes they can't all be done, so they do have to balance this stuff up. I forgot to mention, talking about the variations, there was a bit of a discussion about parks, because that was something that I think a lot of us do if we're using mods. You'll place a park, you might delete the fences. Again, this was in either my last episode or the next one that you'll see. You know, you add your own paths in, put some trees, and you've taken that basic park and extended it. So I said, could we have variations on park? So you place it down, you get the normal park as it is in the game. You click the variation 1 and that's fenceless. Variation 2 is fenceless with no grass. So you get the option of adding and building on it. They also mentioned, Mariina and Hans at Colossal Order, that they were actually very pleased with the way the discussion had gone, that nothing weird was brought up. And I get what they mean. They said all three of us had brought forward stuff and nothing surprised them. There wasn't some big elephant in the room and they'd gone, oh my goodness, we haven't even thought of that. And that's the thing that everyone's really concerned about. You know, I think between the three of us, we've covered in broad strokes probably everything that most people out there think about the game in good or bad ways. You know, all the problems and issues and things that need fixing, and it didn't surprise them. And that's good to me, because it shows me that they play the game, they love the game, they want the game to be the best it can be, the same as that we do. So I'm glad that they're on the same page as us. That sort of surprise, that feeling of nothing surprised us, works both ways. I'm glad that they weren't surprised, that they went, oh right, okay, people like decorating, didn't know that. You know, that would make me think, whoa. But they didn't. You know, a lot of the things they've already spoken about, they know about, they're trying. Hans seems to me, I get the impression he's in the background trying all these different little things, and he's like playing with tools and trying stuff out, and like a little mad scientist. And some of it we'll see, some of it we won't. There's something in a minute I'll mention that he said that. So what are they working on? Currently they're working on modding. That's the most important thing to them. Mariina said it's the thing that's most behind schedule. Again, I get the impression that this would have all been in the release version of the game, but you know, things happen along the way and it didn't happen. So that is the thing that they're they're working on. So that includes the asset importability, getting all the mod stuff working, and that's one of their, it's very challenging, she said, but it's one of their highest priorities. They've got a team that's working on that. Their aim, because obviously the modding stuff, assets and modding stuff is in beta at the moment, their aim is by the end of the year to have that in a state where it's okay, it's done, if there's any fixes and things, but it's at a point where it's done. Everyone's got what they need, it's all working. Assets, they're not, and then they'll clarify that doesn't mean assets importing won't be out until the end of the year. They're still going to get that out as soon as it's ready, and that'll be under the beta PDX mods thing that we've got going at the minute. But that's their plan. By the end of the year, it's finished. It's at a state where they can leave it at rest, I think Luca might have said. So as long as we understand that, but we'll get all of those things sooner, so that's good. They are going through everything in the game. Simulation, economy was mentioned a lot. They're going through all the ways it works behind the team. So no new DLC development is going on by the design team at the moment. They're really focused on the sim, the economy. And it was mentioned, I'll have a quick sip of tea, that everything affects everything. So all these sort of behind the scenes, the economy, the simulation stuff affects other things. So whereas we might have put forward an idea, can you change this in the game or add that? They need to get the basics sorted, the simulation, the economy, those sort of things. And we're going to see that. There's going to be patches coming that will be changing those things. Sounds like big changes as well. So I think we're going to get more information about that. Working on the water sim as well, they're saying that's going to change. That's a longer term thing, but the behaviour and the look of the water, they've heard that making maps is difficult the way the water works. That is something they want to do. They did say that the art team are working on new assets, the most requested things, which is good to hear because that's one of the things that me and I think probably Egg and Phil mentioned as well. It's not a huge list, but it's some stuff that they can get done, they can get out there before their summer break. In Scandinavia, they have their summer break. They don't work over the summer. That's just how it works. So they said it's about 10 buildings, something like that. Maybe a train station that isn't an end point, but, you know, a drive-through train station, more smaller service buildings, that sort of thing. It's a free update, so that'll be great to see that. But the tech team, of course, is working on stuff all the time behind the game. So whereas we see the economy and the simulation sort of fixes as they come up, there's other stuff, tech things, they sort of put it under. It's constantly being worked on, and those sort of things will come up in patches. Hans also mentioned, this is why I just thought of, you know, things that he's in his little lab working on things. Biomes was mentioned as well. So whereas, I mean, what we might have sort of put that under the branding of maybe LUTs and how things look, and we sort of had snow, didn't we, with snowfall and then everything else. Yeah, to mention about biomes, and it is something they've sort of played with. I think they might have wanted it in the game. It was one of those things that had to be shelved for now just to get the game released. But I think shrubland, different rock and grass textures, all that sort of thing. So cut due to time, but they do have a plan for it. Hans has also been playing with the surface tool. He said it's a really powerful tool. If you're not careful, it can cause problems. And I know that because there's actually a PDX mod that's just been released, which has got like a surface dropper tool. So you just click on an area. I probably used it in this video somewhere while I'm recording footage in the background, which I haven't recorded yet, but you're watching it right now. Oh, time traveling, eh? So yeah, reading about that mod, it can cause problems if you know, click on something that isn't enclosed and it just covers the entire universe in concrete, you know, so it could be a problem. But they're working on that, you know, so that good to know that there's these things sort of going on as well that we might see. But this is all the stuff that they want to work on. Simulation, the economy, get these free things out, the modding stuff, the asset importing. Once all these things are done and where they should be, then they can start getting onto the normal dev work in inverted commas. So the updates, you know, these other little things, biomes, we get the surface tool, all these different things, DLCs, of course, any feedback that people are giving, more variation to assets, all of these extra things once the game is at the stage where they're like, yes, this is how it should be. Mariina spoke a lot about as well. She really hopes, as do we all, that Cities Skylines 2 will last as long as Cities Skylines 1. They do all realise there's a lot of work to be done, which of course then means more players will be playing it, so they can still work on the game for years to come. But based on our feedback, Mariina was very confident that they can do it, and I'm really pleased to hear that we didn't surprise them with everything. So that is good. Also talking about bugs and things. This is all sort of out of order, this. I'm remembering it as we were talking about it. You know, we were mentioning different bugs, and they said as well, you know, a lot of the bugs that annoy us annoy them too. They know because they are playing the game too. But again, it's priorities to fix stuff. They've got to fix the problems and then the bugs, of course, along the way as well. And then basically to wrap it all up, it was asked whether we'd ever do this sort of thing again, maybe include some different community members, get some different feedback. You know, it doesn't always have to be us three. That's not, we're not hankering after that in any way. Get some other people involved. And I think it was Luca was saying they've never done this sort of thing before. You know, they do. Mariina spoke a lot about how they do want the feedback. They do listen to the feedback. They do read all the feedback. I've got members of staff in Colossal Order that will look at our videos when we make them and make notes on them, and they pass on all the feedback. So they want the feedback. But doing this sort of direct, speaking to members of the community in this way, because we do have contact with hundreds of thousands of people, you know, between the three of us, it's going to be millions, isn't it? Million, I don't know how many subs we've all got together, but you get the idea. And it was a new thing for them, so they need to go away. They need to sit down. They obviously got to talk about what we've accomplished together with this sort of discussion and how they could move forward with the stuff that we've given them, and then, you know, whether they'll be able to do that again in a few months' time with some other ones. Obviously, if they did this every week, they'd have so much feedback, they'll never get anything done. So, you know, they've got to work things out, see how it goes. But they were definitely open to the idea. I think it went really well. I was really encouraged by it. Hopefully, I've put that across in the feedback that I've given. That yes, between the three of us, and go and watch City Planner's video and Egg's video if they've done it. I think Phil might be doing it on a stream talking about it. We'll see what comes up. But it was really well received. By Colossal Order, by Paradox. Very thankful that I was able to be involved. I'm glad I said yes in the end, that I was able to have the time to do it, because I think it was really worth doing. And yeah, keep the feedback coming. So any feedback in the comments, you know, I read all my comments as well. On the Discord, I probably see those a bit easier to join the Discord, but on the forums, on the emails, they want the feedback. So there we go. Oh, very last thing. Oh my goodness. Hope you're still here for this one. The question was asked about the console. Yeah, they're not going to give us a date yet. They are working super hard behind the scenes. They're very optimistic. They don't want to overpromise and say, yes, it will be out on July the 31st or something like that. I just made that date up. That's nothing to do with them. They don't want to overpromise, but they are working very hard. And Mariina said they're very optimistic that we'll get that very soon. So there we go. Excellent. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like. Check out the next video on the screen. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.